Welcome, everyone. Today is July 25th, and we've got a great overview for the College Station Master's programs here at Texas A&M University Bush School. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to schedule the time from 12 to 1, but I'm hoping that we can allow enough time at the end that I will turn off this recording and then take some questions at the end. I also have my chat function up, so if you do have some questions and want to jot them in there, I can take a look at them as we move along, or as Matt is speaking later in this presentation, I can take a look and maybe start answering them at that time. So we're going to get started and go ahead and introduce our presenters. So my name is Catherine Meyer. I am the Director of Admissions and Recruitment, and Matt Upton will be joining us as the Assistant Dean of Career and Student Services about 20 to 30 minutes in. The agenda today, we are going to be covering the Bush School graduate overview with our locations. We're going to talk about some of the academic options we offer here, the admissions and stats for these programs, the funding and the costs, and anything to do with professional development, the Career Services Office, and the Q&A. So keep what's on your mind, drop those in there, ask those questions later, and we will be sure to cover whatever's on your mind. All right. As far as what is the Bush School of Government, we are an undergrad and graduate program at Texas A&M University. We opened in 1997. We have roughly 2,700 master's alumni through our program for those 25 years. And we have enrolled about 84 students this past year. We're still working on our current numbers. We have 85 MIA, 3 MIA MPH, and 5 MIP, but they enroll all year. So sometimes those numbers will shift as once we get going. And then we also have now an undergraduate portion here at the school. And that also includes some undergrad, probably numbering at about in the thousands with the political science and INTS. We also have the PhD program with political science. So there's 44 of those. And then we have some online students through our Executive Master of Public Service, and then close to 300 counting actual students with our certificates in a number of those options, which I will also cover. So we're preparing students for a number of different careers, and that includes in the nonprofits, federal government, state, local government, government contracting, private industry, and just a lot more, lots of options for us. Our locations here on the main campus in College Station, we are home of Texas A&M University. We're centrally located to 4 major metropolitan areas. So if you see the blue star on the map, people can easily get to Austin and Houston about an hour and a half away from us. Dallas, Fort Worth, and San Antonio are about 3 hours away. We've also now opened a branch campus in Washington, D.C., and that's located about 2 blocks from the White House and is geared towards working professionals with evening classes. So there's probably, I want to say 50 to 100 students at any time working on theirs, and they do have programs that have some rolling admissions, so they can start in the fall, spring, and summer for some of their programs. If you're talking about the Texas A&M campus, the main campus where we work, this is the Bush Presidential Library Center. And you can see that the Presidential Conference Center and Bush Foundation is off to the left. In the far background is the Texas A&M main campus. The Allen Building has the line that's home of the Bush School, which does include now both undergrad and master's program and a political science PhD. And in the forefront is the Presidential Library and Museum, which is one reason why we have this great area, is because we brought that here to get the attention of President Bush and to help leave his legacy. And so we are very blessed to have parking and being a little bit away from main campus so that we can have that professionalism, and you can go to main campus without necessarily losing part of who you are in who the Bush School and our public service connection. You can take in all you want for Texas A&M, but you can also kind of set that aside and not be part of that if it's not as important to you. So leaves a lot of great options for our students. As far as the community and rankings, The Brazos Valley here, we've got about a population of over 200,000 between Bryan and College Station. We're consistently ranked higher in economic and social categories. So we're talking about the economy and finding jobs, the quality of life with the number of parks we have, activities, then growth and obviously retirement. People will love to come back to their host university that they grew up with, and coming back to then take advantage of those activities and maybe even university sporting events and MSc Opus and things like that, where they hold plays and music and so forth. Texas A&M University is one of the largest campus enrollments. So we have over 74,000 students here in the area. Now, about 15,000 of those are graduate students. And then the Bush School, much smaller amount, we're about 400 of that. So Bush School rankings, when people try to qualify, what kind of program is this? Is this going to help me maneuver within my career? You have to realize that we do have some rankings. Now, our two flagship programs, the Public Service Administration, and then there's a Master of International Affairs. Public Service Administration does have rankings. International Affairs does not. So what you're going to see here is just focused on our rankings with US News and World Report. That is from the best public affairs programs. So we're tied at number 28. When there's over 300 programs across the nation that offer MPAs, MPPs, government, those kinds of degrees. So we do have a few rankings in Homeland Security, public management, nonprofit, public policy. I can't say that the International Affairs has something like this, but I can say we're part of the APSIA membership. You'll see that logo at the bottom. And what that is, an association of some of the top programs in the nation and in the world who offer international affairs programs. And we're vetted by this organization. We provide numbers for career. We provide information about our programs. And so we're one of their about 35 to 36 programs that are listed as their primary in international affairs programs. So it gives us some validation that you are going to receive a very high education and very promising career outlook when you're here. So this slide here is going to get an academic overview of all of our programs here at the Bush School. So I'm not going to speak about the political science and international affairs. Those are bachelor's degrees. They have their own recruitment that features those, and people apply through Texas A&M for that. What I'm going to focus is on the master's degrees. Sorry, I got to take a drink. So we offer a public service and administration. This is a 2-year degree. We also offer some collaborative PhD programs with education and health policy that you start with the Master of Public Service, and then you can segue into theirs when you apply to those programs and do a PhD. So they become 7-year programs when you consider that pathway. That may be a handful of students. International Affairs, also a 2-year degree, and we'll give more information about their tracks and concentrations in a moment. But they also have 3-year combined programs where you start with public health or you start with economics, and then you can also apply to the Bush School's International Affairs program and then do a 3-year degree. So you start with them and then do the last year to year and a half with us. There's also an executive international policy program that is run out of the International Affairs. This is a 1-year degree. It's meant to be pretty quick. It's 30 hours instead of 48 hours, but there is a version of that both here in College Station and in the DC location. In the DC location, they have also now started a national security and intelligence degree. That is much like our international affairs, but they've kind of put the title of their emphasis in the name of the degree rather than in the concentrations like we do. So again, you'll see that in a few minutes. And then there's an executive Master of Public Service Administration that is offered online. It does require 5 years of experience before you can pursue that. And then there is a way to combine both the executive Master of Public Service online degree with our Master of Public Service. So there are some students who are doing classes both in person and online, and they make that work. We just work with the department to make that happen. And then the last degree here is the PhD, and it is run through the political science department. Again, they do their own recruiting. They'll have their own events, but you can find that information on the website. And I believe they bring in about 40 to 50 students a year for that. And then we have the graduate certificates. Now, the certificates are online or here in Texas, Advanced International Affairs, Homeland Security, Nonprofit Management, Public Management, National Security Affairs. And then we're going to pick back up the cybersecurity policy. It's kind of gone on the wayside for a little bit as we're hiring a new person to run it. And then there is one offered through geospatial intelligence done through another department here at A&M. So I'm going to spend a few minutes covering each of these degrees with a little bit more detail. So keep an eye on the one that's of the most interest to you. We'll eventually get to all of these, and then we'll move on to admissions. So the Master of Public Service and Administration, the MPSA highlights. So as I mentioned before, this is one of our flagship programs. It's a 2-year, 48 credit hours. That means students typically start fall. That is 12 hours at that point, spring 12 hours, a summer required internship, and then you've got 12 hours fall, 12 hours spring, and then you graduate. And that does fulfill most of our population here. There may be a few part-time students, but the majority of our students are taking a break from whatever work they've been doing, come here to go to school, get their education, use our connections and network to then continue on to the path that they want for a career. So this does require an internship. Now we're going to work with you for that, or sometimes you have your own leads and can kind of take off with that, and you just coordinate with our office to ensure that it meets our minimum requirements. You also have a 1-year capstone where you're working for a client. And in this case, you will get a choice in the kind of capstone that you want, and you will rank order it and be assigned one. I believe I have a slide later for that too. As far as those that might want to do the PhD collaborative degrees, you can continue your education past the MPSA, and you could apply to either education or public health to do policy degrees. Keep in mind, if you had started or thinking about maybe one of our certificates that I had mentioned earlier, you can transfer up to 12 credit hours from one of those certificates, and you're basically double counting the hours both for them and for our master's program. The only hiccup to that is it doesn't speed up the program, so you still have to be the 2 years here, but maybe you do 9 hours each semester instead of 12 because you've already knocked out some hours ahead of time. Now, as I mentioned, some elective courses can be taken online because we do offer the certificates and we do offer the EMPSA online. So you could maybe do 3 classes in person, and there's one course that's offered online that you really want to take. Just know that if you're going to do that, you'll have to coordinate it, and there is an additional cost for those online courses just because of the way their fees are run. So that's about $1,500 more for those kinds of classes. But if you're taking them all in person, like most of our students do, then you're just charged the typical tuition and fees. So we offer 3 different tracks: public management, public policy analysis, and nonprofit management. I'm often asked, can I do both tracks or 2 of them, like public management and public policy? Yes, you can. It is a matter of just aligning the different kinds of courses that you want to do that match that track. And then the concentrations that we offer here that you can develop specialties, they're completely elective. So it's up to you if you want to learn more about data and analytics, and that's more of our analytical methods. If you want to focus on health policy issues, knowing our aging population and the health issues that are coming up and affordability, then you can work with that. It really is customizable to hit your needs, and remembering that you can also take some additional electives elsewhere on campus through just working with your advisor. And we do have a number of students who are individually designing their concentration. So they may want to work with poverty issues or environmental and agriculture. And you can then put that together and take courses elsewhere on campus, mix some of the courses here at the Bush School, maybe even with our international affairs development, or through urban planning or health policy. There's just all kinds of ways. So keep in mind, customization is really something a lot of people enjoy here. Now, as far as the Master of International Affairs, again, a 2-year, 48 credit hour degree, you've got 11 electives to customize. Now, one thing that's different is while the MPSA had tracks that are required, and the concentrations were elective. In the MIA, concentrations, you have 2 that you're required to do. And you fulfill that concentration by taking 3 courses under one of these headings. And there's usually somewhere between 6 to 12 different courses offered. Not every one of them in every semester, but you'll have some say-so in which ones you're taking with which professors, what day, that kind of thing. So we do require a foreign language test to graduate. You will have to work with our kind of our professor who guides that area and assign a test through, typically it's ACTFL, American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, and let them know what you want to test in. And then we'll set up that test when you believe you're ready for it. It is an oral exam. It will be a role-playing scenario, and you have to pass an intermediate low. So it is a conversational level that you need to pass before you graduate. So some students will take it right when they get here. Others will wait until the last minute trying to study all they can. And whatever works, you just have to pass it or you will receive an empty tube at graduation. So we do still also require the internship, or you can choose a language immersion between year 1 and 2 if you prefer that. And some of our students do. Now they're a little shaky about that language ability, and maybe they need to go live abroad for a few months and practice their Spanish, their French, their German, their Farsi, Arabic, China, and Mandarin. You've got all kinds of options. So you'll have a long list of what you can choose from. And they also have a capstone working for a client, but it's now only a semester long. They also have those 3-year combined degrees. So these are what some students will call joint degrees, where you will start with public health for the first 1.5 years and then finish with their Master of International Affairs, probably focused on something like pandemic preparedness and biosecurity. It doesn't have to be that. Sometimes it's a development area. And then with economics, the same thing, where you will start with them, focus on their courses, and then you might be fulfilling something else through foreign economic policy or international economic development. Maybe it's a regional area that you're interested in. And so those are 3-year degrees. You can transfer up to 12 credit hours from the CAIA or the CHLS graduate certificates. So just keep those in mind as options for you if you are looking at that. Now, as far as those international affairs combined degrees, just again, there's 78 credit hours. They do take you 3 years to complete them. You do apply to both departments simultaneously. And then when you're admitted, typically your funding offer also comes, at least it does through us. So you'll know that when you come to our portion of that program, how much funding you receive. Now, while you're with public health, while you're with economics, you'll need to work with their department to see if they provide any funding. Sometimes they do not. So you'll just need to look and see what's feasible for you. If you decide one side of it doesn't work to the other and you're admitted to one and maybe not the other, then you can obviously fulfill that education just with that department. So we've had someone who applied before to both of our departments and maybe decided that our side wasn't going to work and they just continued going with public health. So we work with you through all of that. Now, the Master of International Policy, this is the degree that is offered in both locations. The MIP highlights, so keep in mind, you have to have 4 years of professional international experience. So we're looking for people who have been working. You cannot count things like I did, 6 months of study abroad, and then I did 3 months of something, and then 4 months of this, and add it all up. We're looking for people who are probably past age 25, 26, and have been working and doing something. And then they're coming back to do a 1-year degree in and out. It's 10 classes. And you can typically do it, like for instance, a fall, spring, summer, or you can mix those up because we admit every semester. We've had some start in the spring, summer, fall, and they graduate. So you can take up to 2 courses online. And remember, there is a little bit of additional cost for that, but they do not require the internship, the capstone, or the foreign language exam. So it does speed it up. Now, Bush School funding is not available for this degree at this point, but you are eligible for federal aid and military benefits. So keep in mind, some of the funding I'll talk about later that pertains to the MPSA and MIA does not pertain to the MIP. Now for the DC campus, this is set up in the format of evening courses. It is made for working professionals. So keep in mind, not everyone is working. Sometimes they're just taking courses at night while they're looking for work. But it is set up a little differently than we are here, where we're taking classes during the day here in College Station. So same idea, they've got tracks and elective concentrations if you want them. We have the tracks in national security and diplomacy and the international development and economic policy here in the College Station, Texas campus. In DC, they're only going to have the national security and diplomacy. It's a little bit smaller program. And then elective focus, you get to choose if you want any of those concentrations. You can choose from what we offer in the MIA. And then DC, they don't offer as many. So you're choosing from what they call the NSD, the National Security and Diplomacy track. So again, those are elective. You don't have to focus on an area. You can just have a track. Now it comes time to applying. We've got different deadlines, different requirements. So I'm going to focus on the MPSA, MI, and MI combined degree. So the priority app funding deadline, we're going to always keep this in mid-December. We need time to process applications and get that information over to the faculty to review so that we can set up for interviews that will be coming up in late January and all month of February. So if you can hit that priority funding deadline, please do so in December. Our final deadline will start in January 12th. It's on a Friday for our MPSA and MIA. We may or may not roll it back depending on how applications look at that time. But for the combined degrees, the one with the public health and economics, that deadline is February 1st. All of this is being updated on the website as we speak this week, because the application we're hoping is going to go live around August 1, 2, 3, somewhere through there. So requirements, remember we need an application and fee. The question sometimes is asking, will I receive an application fee waiver? There's very few fee waivers from us because technically I have to pay those to the university and I don't have a lot of budget money for that. So I only have agreements set up with a few organizations that are listed on our website. And if you hit that, then we can issue you an application fee waiver. Other than that, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but it does require either the $89 or the $114 if you're an international applicant. We will need unofficial transcripts at the time of review. We'll need official ones if you are admitted and decide to come. 3 letters of rec, a resume, a personal statement. And if you're in the international affairs program, we need an international experience essay, basically telling us some things that you have done on a focus of international affairs and culture, whether that's classes, travel, study abroads. We just want to get a little bit of an idea of what you've been able to cultivate in your undergrad experience or in life experience. Maybe you're out for a few years. We need proof of English proficiency if you're an international applicant and didn't have a different, like being taught in English or maybe coming to the US and doing a bachelor's degree. So there's a number of different ways listed on the website. And then keep in mind the GRE now is optional for both programs. We do encourage it if your GPA is below a 3.2, or if you are a good test taker and you believe taking this test will help strengthen your file. Sometimes it's not as much about admissions as it is about funding. Having a strong GPA with a strong GRE scores can sometimes catch the attention of certain committee members and maybe give you an opportunity for funding that you might not have had without it. But it is optional. So it is up to you for that time and effort if you want to do it. As far as the MIP degree, this is our 4-year experience degree, 1-year degree. We've got rolling admissions for that. So fall deadline is April 15th, spring is October 15th, summer is March 15th. So we are now looking for our spring enrollment. But if you're looking at MIA and MPSA, keep in mind they're only in the fall. So same idea, their requirements are the same as earlier. They just have 2 recommendations instead of the 3. But any of these for questions, just take a look at the website. Ashley has done a great job of providing step-by-step of what we need and where. And then she keeps her email address on there as bushkillapplications@tamu.edu that you can email her at any time for clarification. Very well developed on the website, just as these are too, our process and timeline. So remember, December 15th is that priority funding. Mid-January to early February, we're having the committee look your applications over. We'll set our final application deadlines. And then in February, I'm starting to set interviews. You are required for 2 interviews for the MPSA and the MIA admission. And so I've got to get those set up with both faculty and maybe a handful of staff who will handle those. And that way we can get the results back, learn a little bit more about who you are, what your goals are, and then we'll make those final application decisions in early March and send you your emailed letter of acceptance with the amount of scholarship that you have usually by March 15th. It's usually by March 10th. And then you have 1 month to make a decision and either accept or decline our offer. We do take a few deferrals. We prefer not to do that. Deferrals tend to fall away. So we would like students to try to make that decision by April 15th and let us know. And then we'll spend the summer just trying to get information to you so you can, find housing here, register for classes, take care of all that necessary business. And so when you get here in August, you're ready to go. I will say the MIP works a little bit differently. For them, decisions are made and emailed within about 7 to 10 business days because it's more of an executive style. It's a small committee of a couple of people who are just reviewing. And if they feel like you're a good fit, then they're going to make that decision as quickly as they can. They do not require interviews. So all that information is on the website. I've put the online link right there. Just know if you're still seeing 2023, we are working on it right now. So 2024 information is going to come up very, very quickly. Now, if you're curious about recent stats, now keep in mind, I'm still working on the incoming class. I should have by the August webinar, I should have new stats up. But for now, this is still for the class that just enrolled with us in fall of 2022. So the MPSA, our average GPA was a 3.63. I don't even list the GRE now because so few are turning them in. And then you'll see our stats. Average age for both of these, MP and MIA, they're not very different. It's usually somewhere around 24. Sometimes it slides down to 23. Sometimes it goes up to 25. But year in a year, it's almost always 24. Male to female ratios, oftentimes are around that 50% mark. This year, the female percentage was just a little bit lower. MIA, it's almost always lower, a little bit more men in that program. Underrepresented groups were really strong this year. Both of them were in the 30%. International, we were still a little bit lower than traditional. People are still having a little trouble with visas. 12% were international for the MPSA. We were 6% international for the MIA. And sometimes cost factors are also part of that. The non-residents, the work experience, you can see those stats there. Just keep in mind merit, how much money you're going to be given, because that's always a concern for students. That goes with experience and fit. So as much as you can tell about the work you've done and experiences you bring to the table, the more faculty are going to look for you. So that kind of element does affect your scholarship level. But keep in mind, merit also means GPA. So you got to have some pretty strong grades in order to help yourself with the higher end funding. Now, we are a small school environment. We enroll 80 to 90 students per department. So in MPSA, we're going to be just under 80 students for this year, and we're at 98 for MIA. So you're sitting classes that average about 16, max 20 to 25, and you're learning from seasoned practitioners and expert professors in their field. Okay, before I move to this funding, I did have someone ask me, are you going to cover the 3+2 program? So Tanya, everything with the 3+2 program is actually almost the same with the MPSA and MIA. I don't cover a lot of that undergrad funding because it's very specific to a small group of people who attend these webinars, but I can send you the information for the webinar that I'll do in the fall, and you can review that one because I'll go into much more depth for the 3+2 programs. So just hang on and we'll give you information for that one. Now, as far as the funding and costs, this is critical for most grad students, right? Can you afford programs? And does it make sense to come back to school to do this? And in our case, yes, because our students are finding great jobs with some pretty solid salaries out there because of the kind of education and the network you are developing in grad school. So keep in mind, we are offering scholarships in year one. So those are generous funding awards that are based on merit. So in year one, if you're a Master of Public Service or International Affairs student, you're receiving a scholarship level that can range from $1,000, and then our top level or the full ride kind of scholarships of up to $29,000. Very hard to get. There's not many of them, and you can't apply for them. They're done by faculty nomination. I mean, if you are an out-of-state student, you receive an additional opportunity because you're receiving a non-resident tuition waiver. So if you're coming in from an international country or from even Tennessee or California, Maine, Vermont, Florida, wherever, you're going to get that non-resident tuition waiver, which is worth about $12,700 right now. So your cost is going to go from if you see at the bottom, a non-resident would typically be $26,000, and instead you're going to be closer to that $13,500. So we're knocking that cost to be much more affordable. And then your scholarship is going to apply to that amount and knock it even further down. So 2/3 of our students typically are receiving around the $3,000 to $5,000 because we cover more students at that level. And then you can also receive some additional funding if you're doing an internship and that receives no funding, and the Career Service Office can work with you for that. Now, in year two, your scholarship either renews or you can apply for a graduate assistantship. Now, if you receive one of those GA positions, they're GANTs or GARs, research or non-teaching. If you do receive that, then you have to give up your first year scholarship. So you can't tackle on a $20,000 graduate assistantship on top of a $5,000 scholarship. It just replaces it. And that money goes back into the pot and helps other people. So our estimated costs in tuition and fees are listed here. We're about $13,500 per year for Texas residents before our scholarship kicks in. We're about $26,450 before the non-resident waiver and the scholarship kicks in. And for international students, a little higher because some of the fees that you guys pay. So you're looking about $30,000 to start, but then you're knocking that cost down again by somewhere $15,000 on average, sometimes a little more than that. MIP, their totals are there. Not as many people typically are on here for this, but $16,800 is a Texas resident cost for that 1-year program. If you're a non-resident, we don't have the waivers for you, so it is a $33,000 cost. And if you're international, it's $38,000. All right, now, if Matt Upton, if you're on here, if you want to unmute, we're going to have you talk a little bit about professional development, and then I'm going to start looking at some of the chat questions. So,
great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Well, howdy, everybody. We're really glad that you're all here today. As Catherine shared, my name is Matt Upton. I'm the Assistant Dean for Graduate Career and Student Services. So I work with Catherine and her team. I also work with our Leadership Development Program, Writing Program, and Career and Student Services. So we'll give you a little bit of an overview of professional development for our students at the Bush School, and then talk briefly about career opportunities that our graduates pursue when they finish up here. So in our leadership and writing programs, Holly Kasperbauer is our assistant director for the Public Service Leadership Program, and she runs that program, and it's really a great opportunity for you to really learn about yourself. So we use programs like Myers-Briggs type indicator, Strengths Finder, Strengths Quest, so you can determine what your strengths are. And then also we use that information and help you incorporate that into the work that you're doing with your group projects in the first year, and then especially in the second year in that capstone project that Catherine has already talked about. So you want to know, how does my personality interact with the other 6, 7, or 8 people on my team? How can we work best together? So it's about self-awareness. It's also about knowing who you are as a leader. So you know not only your strengths and your qualifications, but also those areas that you need to work on. Writing program, we have a couple of people that work in that area, Cindy Razor and Brenda Kent. They are not going to edit your papers for you. They're not going to write your papers for you, but they are going to help you make sure that you have the best tools in your toolbox for writing. So we're going to talk to you about, how do you structure your paper? Who's your audience? How do you make sure that you're conveying what you want to convey the most effectively? They're also going to give you practical skills like, how do I write a memo? A briefing memo, because that's important, and you're going to hear about those types of things in your classes because you're working with those people that have worked in the government before. So that's something that is offered to you. We have a number of speakers and conferences. No way that I could try to cover all of those, but if you look on our website, you look also at the George and Barbara Bush Presidential Foundation. They also have a number of speakers and conferences. Our research institutes and research centers at the Bush School and then also at Texas A&M as a whole offer opportunities. Same thing both here in College Station and in Washington, D.C. at our teaching site there. The library system here is really strong, and we have someone who has worked in that library system and has done really well, and it's very helpful to make sure that you know how to access A&M's extensive digital and library collections, and also the resources that are available to you through a presidential library, the George Bush Presidential Library here in College Station. Internationally, there are opportunities for students in both degree programs or in all degree programs to go on study abroad trips. Those are not limited to the International Affairs program. If you're interested in public administration and you want to go on these study abroad trips, they are also open to you. We do have some reciprocal exchange programs. Those are still, we're figuring out how to relaunch those post-COVID. But in the past, we've had those in South Korea, in Wales with Swansea University, and then in Germany as well. And then with that capstone project, depending on where your capstone is, you may have the opportunity to travel internationally if your client is an international client. Catherine's already talked to you about the language requirement for the degree, but even if you just want to enhance your language skills, maybe you can come in and pass that exam right away, or maybe you're in the public administration program and you don't want to have to, or you don't have to pass a language exam, then you can work on that and work on your language skills through things like Rosetta Stone or the language groups that we offer tutoring, those types of things. And then we have research centers and institutes here covering things from nonprofit management to international affairs to grand strategy and science, technology, and public policy. So, okay. We also have some student organizations. We have our public service organization. Their name tells you what they do. Service projects here in the local area, the food bank, the schools, some of the other nonprofits in the area. We have an internal student government association. Texas A&M University has a large student government association for both the undergraduate population, and they have a graduate and professional student government association. We also have a smaller student government association that serves the needs of our students inside the Bush School. And we have students that are involved in that, student reps and officers. We have a number of committees that function in that, social and traditions, fundraising, merchandising, tailgating, graduation. You can see the things there. We have a chapter of the International City County Management Association, and that is something that's very active. The Association of Fundraising Professionals, if you're interested in development work. We have an ambassadors council, this Foreign Language and Culture Society to help you with your language skills. And then we have fun things like intramurals and athletics as well. Hey, Catherine. Career services. Now, most of you are probably thinking about graduate school, not just because you want to get more education, but because you want to see what it might do for you from a career standpoint. Does it help you get the next leg up into that organization? And so we provide you some employment statistics the last couple of years. In the public administration program, our three primary areas where people go to work are state and local government, nonprofit organizations, and the federal government. You can see that 81% or 82% of the class of 2022 went into one of those areas. In the class of 2021, a little bit less than that, but still very robust in those areas. In international affairs, you're going to see a much bigger number in the federal government area and then government contractors. Typically, those government contractors are federal government contractors, but typically between 40 and 60% of each graduating class in international affairs is going to go to work in the federal government. Obviously, that makes sense with our concentration in national security. Employment rates at 6 months post-graduation, which is what our colleagues in both NASPA and APSIA report out, so you can compare us to other schools, are between 86 and 99% employed for those that report back to us. And so we've got really good employment rates in the last several years. Even throughout the pandemic, our numbers dipped a little bit during that time, but people were still able to find jobs. I know Catherine mentioned earlier the internship funding and immersion funding that is available. That is in addition to the resource of the scholarship that you receive for admission. You do have to attend a series of career workshops in the fall and spring of your first year. And if you do that, attend those workshops and submit the deliverables, and those are things like submitting your resume for review, putting together a LinkedIn profile and making sure that you follow the guidance that's given for that. Doing a mock interview, some of those types of activities and deliverables. If you submit those, then you qualify to apply for funding if you are doing an unpaid internship or a language immersion, because language immersions do have a fee associated with them. Not a fee that we assess, but a fee that the language training organization assesses. And so we offer some additional funding for that, depending on where you're at. So there are levels of funding that you can qualify for. So it gives you a quick idea of career services. It gives you an idea of where our students go to work, or our graduates go to work when they finish up. Any of the intelligence agencies, we've probably had someone go to work for them at some point. The standard ones are the CIA, DIA, and FBI. National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or NGA, is a pretty popular one as well. The federal government, USAID, for those that are interested in international development. U.S. Government Accountability Office, or GAO, is pretty popular. State and local, we just offer or list some of the cities here. I will say that the city of Sugar Land, Texas, which is down in the Houston area, greater Houston area, has been really good at hiring our graduates in the past, but we've also got a number of students that are working in cities and counties across the state and out of the state of Texas as well. City of San Antonio, city of Austin, and Houston. Nonprofit organizations, we list ones here that are going to probably be a little more familiar to people, but there are others that our students, our graduates, are going to work for that may be located in specific areas. One that I know is in the news a lot these days is Sandy Hook Promise, and we have a student who went to work for them a couple of years ago. And then you'll see some of the other nonprofits here: St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, United Way, specifically United Way of Dallas and Houston. Here locally, Brazos Valley Food Bank, Austin Food Bank has also hired our students. And then Accenture, Booz Allen Hamilton, a government contractor, Chemonics, another international development contractor. You'll see some consulting firms here like Accenture, Deloitte Consulting. So it just gives you a quick idea of the types of places that our graduates go to work. So I'll turn it back over to Catherine, but I'll be on if you have career-related questions until we end up here.
Thanks, Matt. I wanted to go ahead and just wrap this part up, and then I can stop the recording and we can go on to some chat. So if you are here listening and have some questions for us, you can either drop them in the chat. I've answered the ones that were there, or I'll let you unmute in a few minutes. But for the rest of us, as we're listening to this webinar, keep in mind that you can check us out online anytime at bush.tamu.edu. There's handy tabs at the top that you can find admissions, you can find the academic and learn more about those programs. If you want to contact us, reaching out to myself and Ashley. We're the College Station office. We work with those MPSA, the MIA, and the MIP admissions, our Bush School admissions at tamu.edu. Our phone number is there. If you have listened now and found out, I want to learn more about those graduate certificates, what do those look like? How can I take those 4 courses and earn that certificate to help me? That's the Office of Extended Education. And so they've got their information with Bush School online at tamu.edu. And then if you want to learn more about the Washington, D.C. office that offers that national security and intelligence and the MIP, their information is Bush School DC at tamu.edu, and they'll be happy to help you. So at any point, we'd love to reach out and talk to you more. If that's a Zoom chat, if that is just questions you want to email us, please do so. Ashley and I will answer that phone and help you out all we can. But I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And if you do have questions, just hang out.